Okay, welcome back to the next lesson in Trading with Market and Volume Profile course. We're on Unit 15, Trade Strategies using TPO and Volume Profile charts. And now we're going to be talking specifically about single fills. So as I talked about in the first single section, single fills is one of my favorite things to target because singles represent areas where we had the impulsive moves, and then it's highly likely that within the next session or next sessions, market will might possibly be coming down to fill those areas. So for example here, just as a little quick recap, on the left I have the TPO chart. This is the split daily profile. This is the regular daily profile, and then this is just the regular 30-minute chart. This is an example in the gold market, and we can see when we see very impulsive moves like we do here, that will usually leave what we call inefficient or unstable structure below that the market is most likely going to come and fill at some point right around the area where we had the impulsive break. So over here, you can see we had all these wicks on these candles here before market took off. So once this market, if we start breaking down, this is going to be the first logical target if you're coming short into this, or if you're waiting to get long, then you also are waiting for all these singles to get filled into this area of balance before market went into an imbalance mode, and then you're waiting for a retest on this in order to try to get long on a pullback into here. So with singles, like we talked about, any TPO period, remember each period is 30 minutes. And so any period where we have an impulsive move without any fills on either side, those are going to be the single prints. So basically, this area, and this little area right here, all these three are going to be represented by these shaded areas that we have over here. Now, some of you might be familiar with, what they call the smart money concepts in price action. And there's a pattern that they talk about there called the fair value gap, okay? What they call the fair value gap is basically the equivalent of a single sprint. Basically, what's called the fair value gap is when we have, like, for example, this candle right here, you have a candlestick, and you have, in this case, to the left, you have the top wick of this previous candle. To the right, you have the bottom wick of this. So this area that we have right here is what those style traders will call a fair value gap. For us, this is just going to be basically, in market profile terms, this is a single sprint, or also in volume, we could just call it also a common gap. Basically, a common gap is an impulse one-way move that we expect to be filled back soon at some point. Okay? Now, for example, if I zoom out here, you can see, for example, here, this was a fair value gap on this candlestick right there. But if we look at a TPO chart, this is not a single sprint. And why is that? Well, because we have price went up to this level, then we traded down, then we moved up. So at the time when this candle opened here, we had a single sprint filled down here, but then we came back down and filled that single print, and then the market took off. Okay, so if we will look at this price 50, 67, 75, if we go into a profile, it will be right over here. So that movement, we had that high, market took off. So when this period closed around here, this was a singles print, but then you can see market came back down and filled it before we took off. And that's why over here, we did not have a singles printed on this profile, because we had two 30-minute TPOs, well, in this case, three, that traded through these levels. And so that's why we have this closed, and we did not consider that a singles. Like up here, this is clearly a singles, and you can see it right over there. We got our single prints because we had a period up to here, an impulsive move, and no fill back at all into those values. Okay, so that's just a little recap, and also just to clarify, because I see people, that try to mix up like concepts like that in terms of smart money concepts and market profile, etc. But there is a distinction on this, and we can easily, just by looking at a 30-minute chart, identify where the single prints are by what we talked about now, just having no fills on either side of an impulsive 30-minute candle or 30-minute period. So let's start looking at some examples of how we can use this for our trading and how I like to use it for targets. Right over here, we're looking at individual session profiles on the S&P 500 market, and we had an overnight extended hours profile here, pretty balanced. Then we opened up here on this regular trading hours, this stock market hours, very impulsive day. You can see we did build some value right around the middle, but then late in the day to finish off the session, we pushed lower and we closed right around the lows. Next extended hour session, we opened up here. So immediately my eyes are drawn to this level. Why? Because we have a high volume node, we have a clear ledge right over here, and we have this whole row of single prints. And again, the filling of the single prints is one of the things that we would anticipate onto the next session. And then we can see here, if I split this up, we now have that overnight session split up, and you can see how we open. I marked off here the singles, and you can do this too. I like to be aware not just of the fills for the singles, which will be this line right here, but I like to mark the entire area of singles, because I know that this entire area here, this was a pretty weak structure. But if we would have had like a double distribution here and we had more values over here, then this would have been probably a significant area of resistance, and then this will be another area of resistance. But you can see that this was pretty weak, so this did not offer a lot of resistance. So this will be definitely the main area where we expect to see some kind of resistance into the test of this ledge over here. And you can see how the market, we came up, almost tested it, and we did have a push down, but then it pushed back up right into the valley area low, which happened to be also right in line with the fill of the singles. And then market came right into here, and then we rejected and closed down below. Okay, so singles just make it a very easy area to target. This is the same example, but now this is looking at it from an intraday perspective. And we have here, again, this was the regular trading hour session, which I said we build a lot of volume up here, but then late in the session, very impulsive move down. And you can see from the volume profile, we did make 2 little high volume nodes here. And then you can see, like what we talked about, the ledges, where we expect to see support and resistances right over here, this area. This low volume node edge in between this HVNs. We had some resistance into here. Once we broke and accepted into this node above, we came and retested the bottom of it before we had a push up again. We did go back down into here. By then, this profile has already started developing, because remember, once we open up here, this profile is not really developed. So we're mostly looking at the previous session, the information we have to the left of the chart. And then this shaded area, this is the single prints, which this is where we started on this support, impulsive move down. All this candle, all these wicks here happened within a single TPO period between 3 and 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. So all these TPOs were pretty much this area right over here. Okay, well, I don't have the regular session split up, but basically all these moves was a single period. So when we look at the TPO, we have a clear gap right over there before we push down. And then all this area happened within a single period. So that's why when we look at the session profile, we have this large, sorry, let me go back here. Okay, this whole large area happened because this whole down move, all this happened within the same TPO. Okay, so that's why this whole period right over here is one single TPO on the market profile chart. As all these candlesticks, this is a 5-minute chart, this all happened within one period on this straight move down over here. And then you can see how we got into the perfect fill from here, pretty much the point of release of this TPO, and then we filled it in into the overnight. Another example, here we have the chart on the NQ, and you can see how I've marked over here all these pink prints are going to be single prints that we've left throughout the various profiles, but the main area that I'm showing off here is this profile. We had this single prints which are going to carry forward into the future. So you can see several days later when the market starts turning back, then I'll have this single prints as reference. And you can see right over here how we have a clear ledge into this fill, which happened right around the top of this regular session profile on the NASDAQ. Okay, so these are just very useful levels just to use as far as targets, not just short term, but you can even use them for swing trades as well. Then this is another example on Forex, Euro US dollar. Very obvious single prints here. So we had this day with a double distribution and just a very impulsive move right here in the middle of the day. And then you can see we came down, started balancing around this area. We had a quick move down, and we actually left another row of singles right here, this would have been the first target coming up. Then we accept back into this balance, but then we start getting closest outside of this general balance area right here when we close up here. And then now we can start focusing on this higher targets and on this fills up into this single prints, which we get on this day. And you can see we had a big excess tail and then a very strong rejection back down into this areas. Okay, but you know, when we have days like this, these are going to be very very easy to spot, just because we see such big gaps within the profiles. If this market will start coming down, then I'm paying attention right over here. We have a little ledge high volume node here, and then we have a single print to fill on that level. So then this would be immediately my next area of target if we start coming back down. And again, this is also a big area of balance, so we can expect price to get sticky right around these areas in balance. Okay, here's another example in the S&P 500. Here we have a daily or a whole day TPO, and again we have a very large area of single prints from this big impulsive candle. This is a 30-minute candlestick chart, and so same thing over here. My immediate area that I'm going to be looking for to take profits on a long would be to fill back into this level, pretty much where we started breaking down, right into here. And you can see the next day we had regular, this is the extended trading hours open, pretty sideways. As soon as Europe opened, we start pushing up. We did have this quick breakdown back, so you know, traders that were trying to just get YOLO long here and start chasing, assuming it was going to go straight here, did get punished on this pullback. This pulled back pretty much into this consolidation pre-breakout over here, but then you can see after that we printed a really nice rejection wick over here on this candlestick. And then once this happened right at the market open, so we had the regular market hours open, and then we bounced right here pretty much right after the lunch break, and then towards the end of the day market just drove all the way up to fill in this singles up here. And remember, when we have the singles, the larger the accumulation of TPOs, or the larger this high volume node is, then we can expect a stronger rejection off of this single print, in this case the breakdown point. And we look for two things, like we talked about on the other strategies before. We either look for a fill and a rejection, or if we break above, then we look for acceptance and holding of this ledge over here, and then we target, like in this case we have another little single here and the upper edge of this high volume node, etc. And you can even see it right over here. We had this little node, then we had this bigger node here, and what do we have right over here? Market comes up into the singles area, and comes back and tests and starts holding and then pushes up more. We did have this big breakdown, but you can see right over here how we had this swing high here. This high volume node, or this edge here, is pretty much from this right over here, this values that we build. We went up, tested the top, and then continued pushing up over here, starting to fill in these singles. Okay, so with that, let's go into some charts and look at some more examples on the charts. So let's go here into the Forex market, Euro US dollar. So when I'm looking for this, what I would do is, again, this is Sierra chart, but you can do this on any platform where you're using. I'm going to go right here into the settings, extend singles. I don't have it activated. I'm going to put until future intersection. This is going to add all these little pink lines, and this is just going to help us visually be more aware of it. This is the example that I showed you on the previous slide, how we came back up and filled these singles into this big move. But let's just go back here, and you can see how there is some levels which, you know, don't necessarily, we're not going to get a fill right away. For example, if I look up on this chart, I can see that we still have this two singles up here that remain untouched. So if market starts pushing up, I'm looking at this high from this day, and then right above that we have this two single prints, plus we can see we had a pretty balanced area right over here. So this is a big area of interest if we do push up, and we can use those single prints as a guideline for our take profit levels. Okay, here's a very nice example of a single print with a big reaction. You can see again here we had this impulsive move and two very large single prints. We broke out. Now we're coming back for a retest, and you can see how on this day we literally just came and perfectly filled in all this weak unstable structure into this little ledges that we have up here, and then from there we had a nice push up. And obviously, you know, you want to look at market structure and just key context. Like if we see this was on November 13th. So if I go here under Euro US dollar and I go back to November 13th, you can see that is right over here. We had this impulsive break here that left those singles. Here you can see we had a nice trend line breakout over here that started this whole move, and then we just came back down and tested right into this little block of demand, this last consolidation before the breakout that then shifted market structure to the upside by breaking over all these highs, and then market came right back down into here, and then we had a nice reaction off of those single fills. Okay, let's go back into Sierra. Okay, and we're right back here on Sierra chart. So again, every day when I do my market analysis for the next trading session to get all my trade plans ready, you know, this singles, poor high lows, etc. forms a strong, very base of my analysis. Like we can see right over here, market has been on a rip lately, as you can see. You know, we've left many singles on the way up, which, as you remember, singles are a sign of impulsive trending markets. And you can see from this pullback here, we've had several sessions now of pretty much 3 days, well, 2 days of impulsive move up. This last day was more of a balanced sideways day. But then right over here, for example, this level, I'm watching this now because we closed at the lows here. And from the Thursday's regular trading hour session, we have a single that has not been tested yet. So if we go into an intraday chart right over here, we can see that that single would correspond 5,088 would be right over here. 5,088. And it's pretty evident if you look at this, you have this impulsive move with no trading from either side of it. Now, we do have, you know, this big high volume nodes marked here. So we have very big support right at the bottom of this single. So like we've talked about, you know, you don't want to try to predict or try to short into this level. Even though this has been tested multiple times, it can still come or do some kind of fake out and then reverse. But I'll be watching, because if we do have this, for me now is our line in the sand, or the most important level at the moment. If I mark the singles, let me go into the here and let me mark off the singles here with a drawing tool. So from here up to here, let's make it blue. Okay, so right there, that's my singles area. So you can see it marked here on my 5-minute chart. So if we do start pushing down, I'm looking for here as my next target into the downside. This level right over here, it's obviously a very significant support level for the past day and a half. So I would like to see a solid close through, some kind of retest, and then go in to target this fill of this inefficient move. But again, this is my immediate first target to the downside going into the next session. It was a pretty bearish close. As you can see, we had this high, we broke above it, but then we came back down, and then we rejected several times. We spent pretty much the whole session rejecting underneath VWAP as well, which is one of the main indicators that I use in my order flow trading too. So it wouldn't even be surprising if once this market opens on Sunday night futures, we could even gap down into this area. So this is like the first clue of what I'm looking for. But again, this is just strategies for how I map out all my important levels when it comes to trading, and then just look for fills into those areas. Like if we keep pulling back, you can see right here we had this little single right over here. Then if we move back down, we have more singles on this trading day right here. You can see we have this area right here, which, let me see what time this happened. 2:45, so 3. So yeah, this whole move here happened in one single TPO period. So this single right around 50:45 is going to be this singles that we have right around here, etc. And you know, I'm just gonna keep using those in this case as targets into the downside. Okay, that's it for the singles video. Now we're gonna talk about poor highs and lows in the next one.